Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the very fact you are hearing these words means that change is already set in motion? Nothing in this world happens by accident. Every event, every encounter, every moment of awakening is the result of an unseen force responding to the assumptions you hold within. You are not here by chance. You have been called. The stirring within your soul, the quiet whisper that tells you something greater is unfolding, is not an illusion. It is the truth of your being revealing itself. The world you experience is not separate from you. It is you. Your circumstances, the people you meet, the opportunities that appear or seem to slip away, all of these are simply reflections of what you have assumed to be true. The great misunderstanding is to believe that reality is something happening to you, something beyond your control, something dictated by forces outside of you. But this is not so. The world is nothing more than a mirror, faithfully reflecting the state of your consciousness. Change begins not in the outer world, but within. Perhaps you have noticed that life has been shifting. Things that once seemed stable now seem uncertain. Doors that were once open have closed. New possibilities are emerging, sometimes in ways you never expected. And yet, even in moments of discomfort, there is an underlying sense that something is unfolding in perfect order. You may not yet see the full picture, but you feel it. You know deep down that something is calling you forward. This is not coincidence. This is not random. This is the world responding to a deeper change within you. You have been assuming something new, whether consciously or unconsciously, and now the outer world is adjusting to match it. You may have desired more abundance, greater love, deeper purpose, or a completely new reality. Whatever it is, the changes happening around you are the first signs of your assumptions taking form. And yet, so many resist these moments. So many look at the shifting ground beneath them and mistake it for loss, for difficulty, for chaos. But do not be deceived. What appears to be an ending is often a beginning in disguise. What seems like uncertainty is simply the necessary clearing before the new reality can take shape. The question you must ask yourself is this: will you embrace this transformation, or will you fight against it? Will you trust the process, or will you attempt to hold on to the familiar out of fear? There is no need to struggle. There is no need to question. You need only recognize that the very fact you are experiencing these shifts means that what you desire is already on its way. The world does not change first. You do. And once you do, once your inner state has shifted, the world cannot help but rearrange itself in accordance with your new assumption. If you have ever doubted your ability to create the life you desire, let this moment serve as proof. You did not stumble upon this by accident. You have drawn it into your experience because something within you is already preparing for what is coming. This is your confirmation. This is your sign. The changes you seek are not in some distant future. They are happening now. They have already begun. And your only task is to align yourself with them. But how do you align with the change that is unfolding? How do you step into the reality you have been preparing for? The answer is simple. You must assume that it is already yours. You must no longer see yourself as someone waiting for change, but as someone who has already become the person they wish to be. The world will not shift until you do. It will not reveal the full extent of its transformation until you have claimed it in consciousness first. Do not wait for external proof. Do not look to the world to validate your new state of being. It is not the world's job to convince you. It is your job to assume. Assume now that the change you desire is already complete. Assume now that you are already living in the reality you have longed for. Walk, speak, and think from that state, and watch as the world moves in response. Too often people wait. They wait for signs. They wait for evidence. They wait for the world to give them permission to believe in their own transformation. But this is not how creation works. The world does not move first. You do. And the moment you fully accept your new reality, the world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. So if you are seeing this, if you are hearing these words, let there be no doubt. This is your sign. This is your moment. You are not here by chance. The changes you have been seeking are already underway. Your only task is to claim them, to embrace them, to live in the certainty that they are already yours. Do not look to the world for confirmation. Look within. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and reality will shape itself to match. This is the way. This is the truth. And when you live by this truth, you will come to understand that there was never anything to fear, never anything to doubt. The world is your reflection. Change yourself and the world will follow. If you have noticed a shift in your life, if circumstances are rearranging themselves in ways you did not expect, know that this is not random. Everything that happens in your world is the direct result of your inner state. The people you meet, the opportunities that arise, and even the challenges that appear are simply reflections of what you have assumed to be true. There is no external force orchestrating events beyond your control. The world is responding to you always. And if you are seeing signs of transformation, if things seem to be changing rapidly, it is because you have already begun to change within. Perhaps there have been moments of discomfort, times when things seemed uncertain or unfamiliar. You may have found yourself questioning why situations that once felt stable now appear to be shifting. But what seems like uncertainty is in truth a response to the new state of consciousness you have assumed. You are stepping into something greater, and the old conditions must make way for the new. There is no loss in this process, only transition. That which no longer serves you is being cleared, not as punishment, but as preparation. The signs are everywhere if you choose to see them. A conversation that sparks a new idea, a sudden opportunity that seems to come out of nowhere, a door closing so that a better one may open. These are not coincidences. These are the direct responses to the assumptions you have held. The world is always shifting to reflect your inner reality, even when you are unaware of it. The question is not whether change is happening, it is whether you will recognize it and align with it. A mirror thought. Many resist this process because they believe that change must be difficult. They hold on to the familiar, fearing what is to come, not realizing that by doing so, they are delaying their own fulfillment. But change does not have to be a struggle. It does not have to bring fear or uncertainty. When you understand that the world is simply mirroring your state of being, you realize that all you must do is align yourself with the new reality you wish to experience. Assume now that this transformation is for your highest good. Assume now that everything is unfolding in perfect order, and the world will prove you right. It is not enough to see the signs. You must also interpret them correctly. Too often, people look at a closed door and mistake it for rejection. They see something leaving their life and assume it is loss. But what if that closed door is simply redirecting you to something greater? What if that so-called loss is merely the necessary clearing to make room for something more fulfilling? The way you perceive the changes happening around you will determine whether you resist them or embrace them. And the moment you embrace them, the moment you trust that all is unfolding exactly as it should, you step into alignment with the reality you have been preparing for. Nothing is being taken from you. Everything is being rearranged for you. The relationships that shift, the jobs that no longer fit, the circumstances that seem to be falling away. All of it is happening because a new assumption has taken root within you. The moment you desired something greater, the moment you claimed a new state of being, reality had no choice but to respond. This is the law. This is the truth. And once you understand it, you no longer fear change. You welcome it. You expect it. You prepare for it. Not by holding on to the old, but by stepping boldly into the new. Preparation is not about waiting. It is not about hoping. It is about assuming the reality you desire is already yours. When you see the signs, do not doubt them. Do not question whether the change is real. Assume that it is already complete. Walk with the certainty that what you have asked for is already on its way. Live from that state now, and the world will shape itself accordingly. The universe moves at the speed of your assumption. The moment you claim something as yours, reality begins to shift. But you must remain faithful to that assumption. You must not waver when things appear to be in transition. What you perceive as chaos is simply the old dissolving to make way for the new. And when you remain steady in your conviction, when you refuse to be moved by appearances, you will find yourself standing in the very reality you once sought. The signs are not separate from you. They are not external messages from some distant source. They are the natural outpicturing of what you have already accepted as true. When you understand this, you stop waiting for change and begin living from it. You no longer seek science because you recognize that the greatest sign is your own inner knowing. And when you trust that knowing, when you fully accept that what you desire is already unfolding, there is nothing left to fear. There is only the certainty that all is as it should be. If you wish to experience a new world, you must first assume its reality. Nothing in your external world can change until you have changed within. This is the great misunderstanding, that people believe change happens outside of them, that circumstances shift on their own, that they must wait for evidence before they can believe in something new. But the truth is that reality does not create itself. It is created by you. The conditions of your life, the people you encounter, the opportunities that arise or disappear, all of it is a reflection of the state you have assumed to be true. And if you desire something different, if you long for transformation, then the preparation does not begin with action, but with assumption. Many believe they must work harder, push against the world, or struggle to achieve what they desire. They believe they must first see proof before they can claim something as their own. But this is not the way. The world does not bring change first. You do. The moment you accept something as true in your imagination, the world begins to move in response. If you wish to prepare for great change, you must begin by assuming that the change has already taken place. You must no longer see yourself as someone waiting for transformation, but as someone who is already transformed. To wait is to deny. To look at the world and say, "I will believe it when I see it," is to place yourself in a state of lack. It is to assume that what you desire is not yet yours, and by doing so you push it further away. But if instead you assume that it is already yours, if you prepare by shifting your inner state before any physical evidence appears, then you have set the foundation for reality to mold itself in your favor. This is how creation works. You do not wait for the world to give you permission. You declare it as yours now. If you desire success, do not wait for the opportunity to appear before you feel successful. Assume now that you are already in possession of the success you seek. Walk, speak, and think as the person who has already achieved it. If you seek love, do not wait for someone else to come into your life before you feel loved. Assume now that you are already deeply loved and cherished. If you long for greater abundance, do not wait for money to appear before you feel wealthy. Assume now that you are already living in abundance, that every need is met, that every door is open to you. The assumption precedes the reality, always. Most people do the opposite. They wait for proof. They hesitate, allowing the world to dictate how they feel. They look at their current circumstances and assume that because something has not yet appeared, it is not real. But the very act of waiting keeps them in a state of separation from what they seek. The only way to prepare for big changes is to act as if those changes have already come to pass, not in pretense, not in empty words, but in absolute conviction. The feeling must be real within you before it can be made real outside of you. Everything you experience is the outpicturing of your assumptions. If you believe that change is difficult, that transformation takes time, that you must struggle to achieve what you desire, then that will be your experience. But if you assume that things come easily, that opportunities appear naturally, that you are already aligned with all that you seek, then the world will reflect that assumption back to you. The key is consistency. You cannot assume something for a moment and then return to doubt. You must remain faithful to the assumption until it hardens into fact. Do not concern yourself with how or when. The moment you declare something as yours, reality begins to shift. But it does not always appear in ways that the mind expects. The path may unfold in unexpected ways. Circumstances may rearrange themselves in ways that seem strange or even unsettling. But if you remain firm in your assumption, if you do not waver in your belief, then what you have claimed in consciousness must be made real. This is how you prepare. Not by effort, not by struggle, but by conviction. Assume now that the great changes you seek are already in motion. Assume now that the life you desire is already yours. Walk with the certainty that what you have accepted as true within will soon be confirmed without. The world is nothing more than your mirror, and it must reflect what you hold within. Let your assumption be unwavering, and the reflection will be inevitable. What you assume to be true hardens into fact. The world you see before you is not something separate from you. It is a projection of your inner state, a mirror reflecting back to you what you have accepted as real. If you believe that change is difficult, if you assume that transformation takes time, if you tell yourself that success is uncertain, then the world will faithfully present you with evidence to confirm those beliefs. But if you dare to assume that change is effortless, that what you desire is already yours, that success is inevitable, then the world has no choice but to conform to that assumption. There is no power outside of you determining your fate. There is no force holding you back except your own unwillingness to accept a new reality. The moment you decide fully and completely that something is true for you, the entire universe bends to that decision. You may not see it at first. You may not recognize the subtle shifts as they begin. But the moment you make the assumption and persist in it, reality begins to move. It must. This is the law. Most people do not realize that their assumptions shape their lives. They believe they are at the mercy of circumstances, that the events of the world dictate their experiences, that they must react to what happens to them. But the truth is the opposite. The outer world is simply the effect, and the cause lies within. Change the assumption, and the effect must follow. This is not wishful thinking. This is not blind optimism. It is the fundamental truth of creation. If you have ever wondered why some people seem to attract success effortlessly while others struggle, the answer is simple. It is not luck, nor is it external circumstances. It is assumption. Those who assume that things come easily to them, that opportunities flow naturally, that they are always in the right place at the right time, these people experience life accordingly. Those who assume that life is difficult, that success is rare, that nothing ever works out for them, these people too experience exactly what they assume. The mind will argue. It will point to the evidence of the past, to the current circumstances, to the logical reasons why change cannot happen. But the mind does not create, assumption does. If you allow yourself to be ruled by what the senses tell you, then you will remain trapped in the cycle of repeating what has already been. But if you learn to look beyond appearances, if you learn to assume the reality you desire even before it is visible, then you break free. You step into a new world, not by force, not by effort, but by the simple and powerful act of assuming it is already so. It is not enough to wish for change. It is not enough to hope. Hope implies doubt, and doubt keeps you separated from what you seek. To assume is to claim, to declare, to accept as already real. It is the difference between saying, I wish this would happen, and this has already happened. The one who wishes remains in a state of lack. The one who assumes steps into the reality they desire, and the world responds accordingly. You may wonder how long it takes for reality to shift. The answer is simple. It takes as long as it takes for you to accept the new assumption as true. Some changes appear instantly, others take time. But the delay is never due to external forces. It is only due to the wavering of the mind, the return to doubt, the unwillingness to fully let go of the old state. The moment you accept something completely, the process has begun. You may not see the evidence immediately, but the unseen forces are already at work. If you wish to see proof of this, look at your own life. Every condition you experience now is the result of an assumption you have held in the past. Nothing has come to you by accident. The relationships you have, the financial state you are in, the opportunities that appear or do not appear, every single aspect of your life is a reflection of what you have assumed to be true. This realization is the key to your freedom, because if you created your current reality through assumption, then you can create a new one in exactly the same way. Do not allow the senses to dictate what is possible for you. The senses only show you what has already been assumed into existence. If you wish to create something new, you must look beyond appearances. You must assume that what you desire is already real, that it is already done. And then you must persist in that assumption, regardless of what the world appears to show you. The greatest mistake is to assume something for a moment and then return to doubt. This is like planting a seed and then digging it up to check if it is growing. You must persist. You must remain faithful to the new state of being, even when nothing seems to be changing, even when the world appears the same. You must continue to assume that your desire is already fulfilled, and in time the world will conform. It must. The universe moves at the speed of your assumption. The moment you accept something as true, reality begins to shift, but it is up to you to remain in that state, to refuse to be swayed by appearances, to trust in the unseen process at work. If you do, then what was once only an assumption will soon become your lived experience. And when that happens, you will understand that the power was never outside of you, it was within you all along. The moment you accept something as true, the entire universe begins to move in response to that acceptance. There is no delay, no waiting period in creation, only the illusion of time, which exists because the mind has not yet fully grasped the power of assumption. The truth is that all things already exist, and what you call manifestation is simply the unfolding of that which you have chosen to focus upon. If you are seeing signs, if you feel that change is near, then understand this. The change has already taken place within you, and what follows is only the natural expression of that inner shift. To prepare is not to wait. To prepare is to assume that what you desire is already here, and to live from that state now. The mistake that so many make is to believe that preparation means looking for signs, seeking evidence, waiting for some external confirmation before they allow themselves to believe. But this is not how creation works. To look for proof is to assume that proof is needed, and in doing so, you place yourself in a state of separation from what you seek. The one who truly understands this law does not look outward for confirmation. They assume, and in assuming, they know. The world moves at the command of your inner state. Every condition, every event, every opportunity is simply an echo of the assumptions you hold. If you believe that what you desire is coming, then it will always remain on its way, but never here. If you believe that what you desire is already yours, then the world must arrange itself to reflect that belief. This is why preparation is not about effort, not about waiting, but about stepping into the state of being that aligns with your assumption. The moment you do this, the outer world has no choice but to shift in response. Most people wait for the world to tell them who they are. They wait for success to feel successful. They wait for love to feel loved. They wait for abundance to feel abundant. But this is the great reversal of truth. The world does not shape you. You shape the world. What you feel, what you assume to be true, is what is projected outward and reflected back to you. This is why preparation must be internal. The moment you shift your inner state, the outer world begins its reformation. Consider the one who desires a great opportunity. If they believe that the opportunity is still beyond them, that they must wait, that they must prove themselves first, then they will forever find themselves in a state of seeking but never possessing. But the one who assumes that the opportunity is already theirs, who walks, speaks, and thinks from the certainty that it is done, this person will find the doors open effortlessly, not because they are lucky, not because of chance, but because they have aligned themselves with the assumption that the opportunity is already theirs. The world cannot help but conform to their belief. There is no effort in this process. The moment you assume, the work is already done. What follows is simply the bridge of events that lead to the fulfillment of that assumption. And yet, so many interfere with this process. They assume something for a moment, but then they doubt. They waver. They check the world for evidence. And when they do not see immediate confirmation, they return to their previous state of belief. In doing so, they undo the very work they have begun. The only way to ensure the fulfillment of your assumption is to remain faithful to it, regardless of appearances. Do not look at the world to tell you whether your assumption is real. The world is only showing you what you have previously believed. If you are seeing the old reality, it is only because that is what you assumed before. But now you have made a new assumption. Now you have declared a new reality to be true. And if you persist in that assumption, if you refuse to be moved by appearances, then the world will have no choice but to reflect this new state. This is the true meaning of preparation. It is not about making plans, not about waiting, not about seeking validation. It is about knowing that what you desire is already yours and living from that knowing now. When you assume that something is already done, you think differently, you speak differently, you move differently. The actions that follow are not forced, not done with the hope of making something happen, but are instead the natural expression of someone who already possesses what they desire. To prepare for big changes, you must first assume that the change has already occurred. You must accept the reality of your desire as if it were already so, and then live from that state. Do not wait for the world to change before you feel different. Change how you feel, and the world will follow. There is no other way. This is the law, and it is absolute. When you understand this, you will never again wait for permission to claim what is already yours. The moment you decide that something is true, reality begins to rearrange itself to reflect that decision. Nothing is happening outside of you. Nothing is being imposed upon you by forces beyond your control. Every event, every shift, every so-called coincidence is simply the natural consequence of the assumptions you hold within. If you are seeing signs, if you feel the stirrings of change, it is because a new state of being has already been accepted in your consciousness. The outer world is only catching up. Most people move through life unaware that they are the operant power, that they are the ones determining what unfolds before them. They believe that life happens to them, that circumstances dictate their experiences, that they are at the mercy of events beyond their control. But this is the great illusion. The world does not move first, you do. The outer world is only a reflection of the assumptions you hold within. The only way to see change is to first assume it has already taken place. If you wish to prepare for great change, then you must recognize that it has already begun. The very desire you feel, the very awareness that something is shifting, is itself the proof that it has been set into motion. You would not even recognize the signs if the change were not already real within you. The key is not to resist, not to doubt, not to fall into the habit of looking outward for confirmation before you allow yourself to believe. The moment you require external proof, you separate yourself from the very thing you desire. You must know it first, assume it first, and only then will the world respond. Most people assume their current conditions to be the truth. They look at what is in front of them and they declare, this is reality. But reality is only the shadow of past assumptions. What you see now is not fixed, not permanent. It is only the outpicturing of what you previously believed. If you wish to see something different, you must assume something different. The moment you accept a new reality within, the outer world has no choice but to conform. The mistake people make is to allow what they see to dictate what they believe. They say, I will believe in my success when I see it. I will believe in my abundance when the money arrives. I will believe in my love when the relationship appears. But this is the great reversal of the law. The world does not create your belief. Your belief creates the world. You must first assume that you are already successful, that you are already abundant, that you are already loved. And then the world will show you proof. It cannot happen the other way around. Preparation is not about waiting. It is not about hoping. It is about assuming that what you desire is already yours and living from that state now. The moment you accept something is true, you step into a new reality. Your thoughts change, your actions change, your entire being shifts to align with that assumption. And in doing so, you set the unseen forces into motion. What you once sought begins seeking you. What you once chased now appears effortlessly. But it does not happen by chance. It happens because you have already declared it so. You do not need to force things to happen. You do not need to struggle. The only thing required is that you remain faithful to the assumption that it is already done. The world may not yet show it to you, but that does not matter. If you persist, if you refuse to be moved by appearances, the unseen will become seen, the intangible will become tangible, the imagined will become real. It must, for this is the law. Those who prepare by assuming the state of their desire before it appears in the physical world are the ones who experience effortless change. They do not wait for signs. They are the sign. They do not look to the world for confirmation. They are the confirmation. They do not waver between belief and doubt, between knowing and questioning. They assume, and in that assumption they know. And because they know, the world responds in kind. The process is simple, yet so many complicated. They assume for a moment, then look to the world for proof. When they do not see it immediately, they assume that nothing is happening. But something is always happening. The unseen forces are always at work, rearranging circumstances, aligning events, moving people and opportunities into place. The only requirement is that you remain faithful. The moment you allow doubt to creep in, the moment you question whether it is really working, you disrupt the process. You must stand firm, knowing that what you have assumed is already yours, even if there is no physical evidence yet. The world is nothing more than your assumption made visible. If you do not like what you see, change what you assume. Do not argue with circumstances. Do not fight against conditions. Simply assume the reality you wish to experience, and persist in that assumption until the world reflects it back to you. It is law, it is certain, and the moment you truly grasp this, you will understand that nothing was ever outside of your control. It was always within you, waiting for you to claim it. There is nothing outside of you determining your fate. The world you see, the life you experience, the circumstances that unfold before you, everything is a reflection of the assumptions you hold within. The moment you accept something as true, the unseen forces begin their work, rearranging reality to conform to your belief. If you seek transformation, if you desire great change, then you must first assume that it has already taken place. You do not wait for the world to show you proof. You declare it done, and the world follows. Most people live in reaction to their environment, believing that they must wait for evidence before they can believe in something new. But this is the great misunderstanding. The world is not the cause, it is the effect. The only way to change what you see is to first change what you assume to be true. If you look to the world for confirmation, you will remain trapped in the cycle of waiting. But if you assume now that what you desire is already yours, if you prepare by stepping into that reality before any physical proof appears, then the world must yield to your conviction. It has never been about effort, about struggle, about forcing things to happen. It has always been about assumption. Assume you are already the person you desire to be. Assume that the changes you seek have already occurred. Walk, speak, and think as though it is already so. And in doing so, you set the law into motion. The world cannot resist the truth you hold within. The greatest secret is that you have always been the creator. Nothing has ever been imposed upon you. Nothing has ever been outside your control. If you wish to prepare for great change, understand this. The preparation is internal. Change your assumption, persist in it without wavering, and reality will follow, not by chance, not by luck, but by law. It has always worked this way, and it always will. The power is and has always been within you. Now, it is simply a matter of claiming it.